Hi, I'm Sophie O'Donnell. As Beth said, I'm an engineer here at Sainsbury's. So this talk, I wanted to share my top tips and some tools that you can really make the most of your PR reviews, or code reviews, sorry. So today we'll be talking about, I'll give you a bit of insight into my journey. Also, we're going to talk about the purpose of a code review. Why do we do it? There's going to be an opportunity to review my latest UI PR, which is a bit scary. Going to introduce you to my really great approach that I take when I'm reviewing code, how we can give feedback as part of that process, and then also dispelling some of the myths and misconceptions of PR reviews. So, a little bit about me. I appreciate Beth's kind of giving me an introduction, but I'm going to just talk a little bit more about me. So I started at Sainsbury's about 10 years ago, which is really scary. I started working in stores. So I worked in stores whilst I studied at college and then at university. And then after graduating from a computer science degree, I didn't really enjoy programming, if I'm really honest. I didn't think I was particularly good at it, and I didn't know what to do next. So while I was figuring out those next steps, I continued working in stores. And then this is where I came across the engineering graduate scheme at Sainsbury's, which I thought was a fantastic opportunity. 20 months to work across 3 different engineering teams. And you're really encouraged to choose teams with different tech stacks, just like give them a go, see what you fancy, see what you like. So then once I completed the graduate scheme, I chose Pay It Browse as my forever team. And I'm still there today. So Pay It Browse is responsible for the self-serve kiosks in Argos stores. So we allow customers to search, browse, and pay for their products. And across the UK, we have about 7,000 devices that we manage, which I think is fantastic. It's really cool. Also, what's really cool about our team is that we're responsible for the UI, the backend, and the hardware. So you get the opportunity to work across all those different techs. But my passion is the UI. And also, I guess, to touch on our UI is a React web application as well. So that's why I'm here. So let's get into the meat of the talk. Why do we do a code review? So generally, as an engineer, you'll have a ticket you'll be working on, and then you'll make those code changes. And then as part of that process, we'll have a review. And this will be done before we contribute that code back into the repository and then release it to production. There we go, cool. So the goal of a code review is to check any new code for bugs, ensuring it aligns with the quality standards set by the team or the wider organization, and then also to encourage collaboration amongst team members. And then Git is the most popular version control system to date. And so this is often where a code review will occur. So for the rest of the talk, I'll be mentioning PRs, which is a pull request. So just as a heads up. Okay, so can I get a raise of hands? Would anyone be interested in coming up on stage and reviewing my latest UI PR? No? Okay, cool. I see no hands, which is what I was expecting. Oh, Beth. No, I'm sorry, we clocked in. So this is exactly how I felt when I started as an engineer. We're taught about agile methodologies, good coding practices, how to write tests, how to deploy our changes to production. But no one really tells you how to perform an effective code review. So initially, I found this incredibly intimidating. I didn't have much experience. I didn't know where to start, and I didn't really know what to check for. And I also see other engineers starting out their careers with those same worries and concerns. So don't worry, I've got you covered today. So I'm going to share with you my approach to reviewing pull requests, and you just need to remember one word, and that's great. So glance, run, evaluate, assess, and test. And so this is just a simple acronym you can remember when you come to review any pull requests. So let's get started into what they all stand for. So first, when I come to pull requests, I'm going to glance at it just to check that it's actually ready for review. I'm going to look for any initial indicators that might suggest that it's not ready. So first we're going to look at GitHub Actions. Are they passing? Are there any issues with linting or any test failures like we can see on the left-hand side at the top? Also, is the base branch up to date? Or do we have any merge conflicts? And again, we're having a few issues on the left-hand side, but it's okay. Also, as part of this, I would check if the author has self-reviewed their PR. So as part of that, I'd look for any console logs, any leftover comments, any to-dos, like we can see in the right. And I did that the other day, so it's okay, it happens. But I guess if I would see any of these at all when I'm initially reviewing a PR, I'd just reach out to the author just to give them a chance to double check through and amend any changes, make any amendments, sorry. So then also when I'm reviewing a PR, I'll keep an eye out for a couple of these things in my PR checklist. So is the title clear? Do we include the ticket ID? Does the description provide some insight into the changes as part of the PR? Also, do we have a link to the ticket? Because as a reviewer, you might want to go and check out that ticket. Check for any acceptance criteria. As part of these changes, have there been any modifications to styling? So are we including any screenshots or recordings of those changes? Just to draw the attention of the reviewer. Also, have any testing guidance been included? So for example, in Pair Browse, we're responsible for the whole customer journey. So if I make a change on the payment confirmation page, which is at the very end, I would include information on products that the author can search for and the steps that they would need to take to get to that payment confirmation page, just in case they want to run through the code themselves and understand what's actually happening. So I, as someone that contributes code, I always try to include these elements when raising a PR. And so something that can help with this is Git PR templates, as we can see here. And this helps to just standardize your PRs across the team. It also acts as a bit of a reminder to include all that necessary information. So I really recommend checking it out. Next, we go to R, which stands for running the code. This allows you to manually test those changes and to ensure that it's as expected. And this is really useful for me as a reviewer because then I can properly understand what's changed. And then I would normally try and break it at this point just to make sure that we're catering for all those scenarios. Because a lot of the time we focus on the success, but we don't necessarily cater for when it doesn't go as expected. And that's really important because we want our customers to have a really good user experience. So now that we, at this point, have a good understanding of the changes in the PR, we can head on to the next step, which is E, and that's evaluate the ticket. So understand what is being asked of in the ticket. So I would look at, so you'd be able to, at this point, compare that against the functionality that you tested in the previous step. And you can also check for any specific acceptance criteria that you need to look out for. So then now we have a sound idea of what has changed, which means we can then progress on to the next step, which is to go back to our PR and assess the code. So we're going to step through then the logic and the changes to the components, to the methods, any styling. At this point, I wouldn't look at the tests, and I would leave that for another step. But another useful tool that I've come across recently is the GitHub Dev Editor. So if you're looking at a PR and you press the full stop button, this would produce this view. So you can view the changes within the context of the code, step through and navigate as you would your local VS Code, which I've found really useful. And what's even better is that this supports Visual Studio Code web extensions. So you can utilize those when you're reviewing your PR. So something I found useful recently is a spell checker, because my spelling is awful. So if I've got something that can highlight this instead, perfect. So I guess also other things I would look out for while I'm stepping through that code would include these. So readability, is that code easy to understand and comprehend? And is it easy to follow? Naming is a key element of readability. Have meaningful names been given to your variables or methods? Put yourself in the shoes of a new joiner. If they were to look at the names, does that make sense for them? Or are we assuming any previous knowledge for the developer? Architecture, have they considered the file or folder structure? Also, have components or methods been constructed in a way that they're reusable? And then error handling. So like I touched on a bit earlier, so a lot of the time we're focusing on those successful paths and we're not catering for when things don't go as expected. So other things I look out for in our team would be TypeScript type definitions, the use of state management, accessibility. So I really recommend pairing with someone on a review. You can then share the things that you look out for. And this was, an example of this was when I was talking with Beth the other day. She mentioned that if you come across a use effect in a PR, you'll try and rewrite the code without that use effect, which I think is incredible. And then it got me thinking, so I now have added that to my checklist. So share it, share the knowledge, and that's the whole point of a pull request. So now that we've assessed the code, we stepped through it, we're happy with it, we then go to test coverage, which is our final step in our acronym. So do we have good code coverage on our unit tests, integration tests, end-to-ends? If you have visual PERSI testing, have they been updated? And then, it's good to keep in mind that good test coverage will help us prevent any issues being pushed to production later on. And I guess for me, as someone that contributes code, I aim to write all my test names with the given when then scenarios. And I've had some feedback on the reviews saying that it's really detailed. It helps when you're reviewing the code that you can just glance across those test cases and you understand instantly what those tests are looking for. So that was a whistle-stop tour of our acronym, but we've gotten to the end. So next time you're reviewing a PR, just remember GREAT and step through those processes. So now that we've got an idea of an approach we can take when we're reviewing a PR, what we can look at next is how do we give that feedback, which is a really key element of that code review process. So we're going to start with be clear and specific. Clearly articulate your feedback, pointing out the changes that you are suggesting for improvement. But most importantly, include why are you suggesting those changes to be improved? Link to documentation, because the whole purpose is for the author to learn from this and to understand why we're making these changes, and to keep that in mind going forward. Also be respectful. Provide feedback in a constructive and respectful manner, and focus on the code instead of the engineer behind the code. Be careful. Put yourself in the shoes of the author, which I think is really important. If you are the author, there have been many automated GitHub emails that have popped up in my email box, and I've kind of dreaded looking at them. There'd be one eye open just to see all that feedback. And then also be timely. Be timely in that feedback you give. We don't want PRs to be hanging around for days. Let's get them reviewed, get them merged in, and we can get on to the next thing. Also be positive. I think a lot of the time we will look at PR and we'll pick out the things that we think could be improved. But I think what's so important is to highlight and celebrate the elements that are done well. We should be cheering each other on, highlighting when the code has been written well, innovative solutions, put yourselves in the shoes of those people. Put yourselves in the shoes of the author. You probably want to get that really good feedback. And then finally, be collaborative. Get involved with PR reviews, as it's a great way to learn and knowledge share in the team. Okay, so now that we know an approach to reviewing codes, how we can give that feedback as part of that process, let's talk about myths and misconceptions of PRs. These are all things that I thought at some point in my career. So you shouldn't ask questions on a PR. Absolute lies. If something doesn't make sense, pop a question. Maybe it means that the code's not very well written. And if you're thinking it, someone else is probably thinking it. So don't be afraid to ask questions. And then only senior developers should review code. Again, completely wrong. Engineers at all levels should be contributing to code reviews. It's a great way to learn. And also, it's important because we need those diverse feedback. You know, that's how we're going to improve our code. And then thirdly, you need to catch all bugs. Not possible. You know, as part of the PR review, if you approve a PR and then someone comes along and highlights several issues, that's fine. It doesn't reflect badly on you. And that's why we often will have multiple reviews required. And then fourth, we have you should only give feedback through comments on a PR. Yes, that's the main way of giving feedback, but you know, it's a real skill to know when to take that chat offline. You know, context can be missed when you're responding to comments, so sometimes it's just easier to have a chat and bring that to life. And then finally, if you introduce a bug into the codebase, you will lose the trust of your team. Not true. Could people raise their hands if they have introduced a bug themselves into production? Lovely, lovely, cool. It happens, and it's okay. Just remember that it's gone through that review process. Other engineers have looked at it, they've missed it. It's also how we learn from it, how we improve our test coverage. And just remember, you fail and succeed as a team, so you're all responsible. And that is the last myth today. And then that is it for the talk. So remember the great approach when you're reviewing your PRs next. You know, utilize that PR checklist for when you're reviewing PRs, and also when you're raising your own PRs, and maybe come up with your own and share that amongst your team. Also, really important, be mindful when you're giving feedback. We're all human and we all care about the code. So yeah, just keep that in mind. And things go wrong, and that is how we grow. So that is all. This QR code is a link to a GitHub repo, and it's just got some tips for or some VS Code extensions that I've used that help when I'm developing. A couple of other React-y things to look out for when reviewing a PR, and some other things. So feel free to check it out, and contribute your suggestions as well, and then we can share them around. So that is all.
You're going to have to stay up here
Okay.
for a couple of questions. So think of your questions now. I'm sure some of you have got any. Anyone got a burning one right now? Think about them. Think about them. Oh, yes, we do. Yes, nice. We do. Off to a great start. Well, so I think we actually do have a roaming mic, which is fantastic.
Hiya. Great talk. I was wondering, in your PR example, you showed you had screenshots. Do you use a specific software, or it's just a basic, simple screenshot?
Yes, great question. I use a Mac, so I just use the screenshot application. It's really simple to use. So yeah.
Okay, great.
I think
Louise had a question, I believe. The elegant run of that.
Thank you, great talk. I'm not an engineer, so I thought it was fantastic because I understood it. How long did it take for you to get to this confidence level in reviewing?
That's a really great question. So I think at first I was scared of everything, to be honest, when I started out. I was scared of creating PRs and writing code. I'd say maybe like 6 months once I started to be like, oh, it doesn't matter. Like, you know, it's really important just to get involved, add questions. It's okay if you make a suggestion and it's not something that someone takes on. That's fine, you know. I'd just say, just get involved and yeah, pretty much just get involved, really. And you'll learn. And also it makes you a better developer as well, because you're learning from other people in your team and seeing what they're doing. So yeah, just get involved.
That's so true. Yeah, I love the kind of community mindedness there.
Yeah.
And just remembering that we are all on the same team.
Exactly.
Working towards the same goals. And I loved the idea of just opening a dialogue as well. Like,
Yeah.
if I've got more than one question on a PR, I just, you know, I have to start a conversation, like either on Slack or like preferably like a Zoom call or something.
Yeah, that's so a piece of advice I had while I was on the graduate scheme was if say I've reviewed your PR, I'd then reach out and be like, let's have a chat, let's bash out these comments together. You know, I obviously have the context, I have reasons why I put those comments, so I can explain them to you in a call. And that just like helps speed up that whole process, because there have been times when people put comments and I've been like, I think this is it. I'm just gonna like make those code changes, push up to the PR, and then I'm gonna wait for that person to like then recheck it. Whereas if you get on a call, you can bash them out and talk it through together. So.
Exactly, and make sure that you actually understand, like you have the full understanding of what they're saying. So it's almost like giving them even more respect for their comments that they took the time to actually leave on your PR, right?
100%.
Yeah, I saw the little comment that was like quite low down on one of your slides that said, yeah, consider pairing. So I was like, let's bring that up again. Yeah.
Definitely, because so as part of the Jumpstart scheme, you have rotations across engineering teams. So we'll have, we've had engineers in the past that have been on that. So they've expressed similar kind of feelings to how I was feeling when I started. And so I was just like, right, let's pair. Like, I'm just going to show you step by step what I would do and what I've, you know, kind of put into this acronym. And I think it's just a fantastic opportunity. Like, they can ask questions, you know, they can kind of see why you're making those changes, making those comments. So I really recommend it. And also, if you can explain something to someone, you know you've got a good understanding as well. So it's like a win-win.
And it's hard to get like the right tone across sometimes as well. I think one thing that I remember you mentioning earlier was having like a strategy for how to indicate how important your comments are.
Yes. Yes.
What was that strategy again?
Well, it's something I saw online because so it's a low gaff rating, which is level of give a flip. Just in case, which I think is really cool because, you know, you don't want to nitpick everything. And sometimes the comments you make are going to be your personal preference. So for me, I'll normally be like, oh, this is an optional comment, so it's up to you if you want to take it. And like this, I'll still explain why I think it's worth it. But other people have used a low gaff like response, so they'll be like, oh, this is a low gaff rating, which is another way to suggest if it's optional or not if you take it on. So
it's like low gaff 1 would be this is just me noticing something and saying it aloud.
Yeah.
Low gaff 5 is like, you actually need to change this right now.
I really care about this change, so please consider it.
I really want to use that work.
Yeah, I think it's quite fun as well, doesn't it? It promotes a bit of a discussion in the team. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, rather than the word nitpick can be a bit controversial.
Yeah.
Great. So I think you can all join me in saying that was great. Does anyone else have a question? Yes, one more question. Yeah.
What are your rules to actually merge a PR?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's a controversial one.
Yeah. So I guess I would.
Okay, let's simplify this a little bit. In terms of, how many approvals? Oh, thank you.
How many approvals? With how many approvals do you merge a PR?
Yeah. So I guess so in my team we do 2.
Both for I would say developers, or let's say if you have a QA in your team, does the QA do the review or at least the approval?
So we're unfortunate we don't have a QA.
That's fine.
So we all the engineers are responsible for testing all the changes that they make. So I guess, it's like a standard, we say 2. But so for example, today I had approvals and then I had to merge in like a test update or merge in something quite minor. And then we were like, oh, it's okay, we can accept 1 because the changes since the approval is quite minimal. So yeah, I think, standard 2, but it depends on the scenario, maybe 1.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you for the question.
Yeah, that's a good one. Does anyone else? Yes? Well, we're all on the same team.
Sorry, I feel bad, I'm just sitting here as well.
Yeah, so basically I have a question. It's actually might help me. So at Sainsbury, do you have... Does it work?
Yeah, just hold
Test,
it.
test.
If you hold it like chest.
2 inches.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not experienced with that. Cool. So basically, at Sainsbury, do you have any tools that would prevent you from creating a PR? For example, let's say something is missing in the template or there is a console log, because I'm reviewing PR and I'm like, but there is no Jira ticket.
Yeah.
Like, how am I supposed to understand something like this?
Nice. Oh, fair. That's I get what you mean. That's so I guess as you can have the pre-commit hooks that you can run locally, depending on how your project's set up. So this might include like linting that could check for any console logs or any imports that aren't used. So we've gone through like a big change in our team of the CI/CD. So we've moved everything to GitHub Actions, so we have that visibility. But yeah, definitely like talk it through with your team, see if there are some opportunities to improve it. Recently, Sainsbury's we have a trial with SonarQube, which is a great automated static code analysis that we run as part of our pipelines as well. So there's lots of opportunities to automate it as much as possible. So yeah, open up, have a discussion with your team, see if there are any that you could use.
Thank you.
Yeah, everyone makes mistakes, right?
Yeah, and it reduces like, the job for the reviewer if there's things that you wouldn't then have to like pick it out either. So it's quite nice when a tool does it for you automatically.
Exactly. We're humans. We're not just like automated linting bots.
Yeah. Exactly.
And that's why I really liked the bit you said about the templates and how important they are, because it reminds you as the author to remember to do things. I think a feature GitHub has is that you can add like checklists on the pull request template, and if the checklists are not all ticked, like you as the author, you actually tick it yourself. But like if they're not all ticked, that can actually block it from even opening as more than a draft PR.
Nice, that's really cool. I wasn't aware of that. So. Nice, because we've had pull requests that have been raised with nothing on them. And you're like, okay, this is cool. I'll just try and figure it out myself. So I think it's really important when raising PRs that just put as much information as you can in as possible, because you want it to be as simple so that they'll review your PR and then you can merge it in. So, and it'll keep them happy as well. So it's always good.
Very true. Great. Time for one more question, if anyone has one? No? Okay, well, in that case, please join me in giving a very, very welcome.